I know a young girl, and Christy and I have been praying for her in recent days. She's failed her parents so badly. She's done all kinds of things, and now she got pregnant. And so her mom and dad basically have disowned her. And she reached out to my wife for ministry and help. And our heart grieves so much for that parent. They got this idea that she had somehow expired the clock of God's love and the parents' love, and so now they're paying no attention to her. They've rejected her. Now, men and women, God doesn't do that. And be careful if you get near some Pharisee or Sadducee that tells you to stop loving your children. Don't listen to that. Don't do that. Christy unconditionally loved our son one day that she took a flight and drove a 1,000-mile journey with him. It changed my son's life. Tex Year out, who taught me how to speak on public school assemblies, his daughter Sandy was so far from God, he actually stopped his entire ministry, put his daughter in the car, and drove for 30 days. That girl is a healthy wife and mother now. She said, my dad would not stop loving me. The sixth action that kids need so desperately from their dads is kids need discipline from their dads. They need an authority figure. And this is where we are lost in our world today. You know, I don't just say to my kids what's right and wrong. I show them what's right and wrong by my life. And really candidly, after all the sermons they've heard me give, they're watching me far more than they're listening to me. And when you think about it, discipline is another language which says to a child, I love you enough to set limits and respond to wrong behavior. I want to just say to you, agape love is not being a permissive parent to the point that you just let it all go because you don't have that spiritual solidity to put your feet in the ground, look at them in love and say, wait a minute, you've crossed the line. And the unfortunate thing is, if we don't set limits, if we don't be that loving authority figure in their life, they're going to run into one of those authority figures who's going to be far less loving than what we would be. It's going to be far more injurious to them in every way than what we would be. And so let me encourage you today, Dad, as you seek God and as you pray, set limits. And I hope and pray that you'll not be afraid to, if you think there's something wrong, do something about it. If you think your son or daughter is promiscuous or in a sexual relationship or doing something wrong, hanging with a wrong friend, we've been through, you say, what do I do? Jerry, you just set limits. The seventh action, this is a big one. Kids need dads who will actually listen. Now let me make this clear. Listening is an art. It's not just all turn it on and let it go. Many times it is the wisdom to set and listen to your son or daughter. And when you listen and they know you're listening, half of their challenge is already cured just by your attentive ear. You know, this is a tremendous art, as some of you know. You've been around a person that you're talking to and they're not listening and you feel absolutely bankrupt, don't you? Well, you compound that when you bring in the crucial role of a father. Dad, we need to sometimes stop and just become very, very attentive. Christy and I knew a Christian man who had memorized entire books of the Bible. He quoted the Bible a great deal, very, very challenging to other people, his love for scripture memory. But conversely, at the same time, we watched how he didn't know how to listen to his daughter. There was such a disconnect. Tragically, one day she came home and had too much makeup on and too much this and too much that. And he just, in a fit of rage, grabbed a cloth and put it under the faucet and went after her face to take all her makeup off. She was so hurt, she walked out of that house. He has never spoken to her since. He doesn't even know where she is. Now, wouldn't it have been better to have changed the whole approach and just sat down? Honey, what's really going on in your life? Can I just listen? Just talk to me. And let me just listen. I met legions of kids who, because their parents wouldn't listen, literally killed themselves. Did all kinds of stupid stuff that I know years later they wish they would have never done, and all they really needed was a strategic dad at a strategic moment. There's an eighth action that we can take as dads. Kids literally need dads who will give them hope and nurture their dreams. Kids need dads who will give them hope. And so, as you see your son or daughter, you say, well, Jerry, I don't think they're really where they could be. They'll never get where they can be without you. The late Irma Bombach wrote a classic piece that touched me when I read it. She said, last year I received a letter too late to use for Father's Day, but it is still relevant. A single mother who had raised a son who was about to become a dad wrote me. And since he had no recollection of his father, this single mother had one question to me: Irma, what do I tell my son a father does? Irma said, when my dad died in my 9th year, I too was raised by my mother, giving rise to the same question this single mother had asked me in a letter: what do fathers do? And then she responded, as far as I could observe, they brought around the car when it rained so everyone else could stay dry. They always took the family pictures, which is why they're never in any of them. They carved turkeys on Thanksgiving, and they kept the car gassed up, and they weren't afraid to go into the basement, and they mowed the lawn, and they tightened the clothesline to keep it from sagging. It wasn't until my husband and I had children that I was able to observe firsthand what a father contributed to a child's life. What did he do to deserve his children's respect? He rarely fed them. He rarely did anything about their sagging diapers, or wiped their nose or fannies, or bonded with them. What did he do? Well, he threw them higher than his head until they were weak from laughter. A father cast the deciding vote on the puppy debate. A father listened more than he talked. A dad let them make mistakes. He allowed them to fall from their first two-wheeler without a heart attack. He read a newspaper while they were trying to parallel park a car for the first time in preparation for their driving test. If I had to tell someone's son what a father really does that's important, it would be that he shows up for the job in good times and bad times. He's a man who's constantly being observed by his children, and they learn from him how to handle adversity, anger, disappointment, and success. He won't laugh at their dreams no matter how impossible they might be. He'll dig out at 1 a.m. when one of his children runs out of gas. He'll make unpopular decisions and stand by them. And when he's wrong and makes a mistake, a father will admit it. He sets the tone for how family members treat one another, members of the opposite sex and people in general. He can instill a desire to give something back to a community it needs, or when its needs are greater than theirs. But mostly a good father involves himself in his kids' lives. The more responsibility he has for a child, the harder it is to walk out of his life. A father has a potential to be a powerful force in life for a child. Grab it. Maybe you'll get the greeting card for your efforts, maybe not. The crucial role of a dad.